and not to bog people down with too many details, but just give you a sense of what to expect and how we design the course. So the aims of today's call, it's to lay out what happens over the 10 weeks of the Strong for Life course, what all the pieces look like, answer any questions you might have or clarify anything that doesn't feel clear, and also just to help you see if whether or not it's a good fit for your goals, because we don't want anyone to feel like they're doing a course that's not a good match for them either. Hopefully, you should feel excited by the end of it. This is a quote I originally heard from Katie Bowman. She says, "We age into the shape of our habits. Everything we do today goes into our movement bank account for later." And I think that's a nice way of looking at things. Obviously, there's so many components to aging. There's all kinds of complex biological, psychological, social aspects to aging. And one of those is sort of the habits that we have now can really affect us as we age. And part of this course is just to help people develop the tools so they can be a bit more active and help develop the strength, the bone density, the muscle density, and all these things that we know are so important for aging. So, over the 10 weeks of this course, one of the biggest things we try to do is we try to help people build up and develop the tools and the confidence to really know what you need to do in order to increase your strength and your bone density. So rather than just telling you, which we will do, we also want to make sure we really focus on the other aspects, like making you feel like you're capable of it, building up your own sense of confidence, and trying to create a, positive or virtuous cycle of building that sense of competence, which can help build your confidence, which can then help you engage in more activities and more progressive strength training. We really want to spend a lot of time in this course explaining the why of the course and the why behind each movement and how to progress over time. And that's going to be one of the big emphases of the course is this idea of progress and giving you tools to think about progress that are maybe outside of the way that people might do things in the gym. Because one of the goals for this course is to show people that it is possible to build up strength and bone density without necessarily going to the gym. That being said, this program can be done in the gym, but we want people to know that they can get the benefits of a lot of traditional gym training with objects they have around the house or with minimal investment in new items. We spend a lot of time talking about the overview of what the science says and translating that science into a program that you can do because now in 2026, usually very few people don't have enough information. The problem is that we have so much information. How do we make sense of it all? And then we try to provide you with a clear map so you can continue the progress after the 10 weeks of the program. So you should feel like you're confident that you can keep on going and make decisions and progress on your own. That you'll still have access to all the materials in the alumni group, so you'll still have support. So a little bit about us. When Jill comes in, she can introduce herself. But
I'm back in the room.
oh, Jill, you're
Uh,
back.
yeah, I think everyone's got the link. I don't know.
Okay.
I've got many emails coming in, but hopefully they'll find a way in. Yeah, sorry to miss that first bit. Andrew, you can introduce yourself. That's fine.
Well, I was just going to let you introduce you.
Okay. I'm Jill. You may know me if you already follow us on social media. I guess Andrew and I come in from two very different angles, in that I wasn't an exerciser particularly, and I never really sort of saw my place within, I guess, within fitness culture. I think I always just thought I was really rubbish at exercising, but actually I realized that I just hadn't found anything that I found particularly meaningful or joyful, and that took me a very long time to find. And Andrew comes in from with many years experience in strength coaching and personal training. So within the role of the course, you kind of get both sides, which I think is a benefit if you're coming in as somebody who doesn't have a background in strength training. I've been there too. And actually, part of the reason we developed this course is actually because we have these accountability sessions, which we'll go into, which I still do with the groups that have gone before. And it's very nice to stay in touch with them. But that's just a little bit about our background. Andrew, you can talk about you if you want.
Yeah, no, I think you did a good job of it. I mean, for me, I spent a lot of time in strength and conditioning and, working both with professional athletes and, with regular people up to a point. But I sort of I realized a lot of the assumptions about gym and fitness industry were just not really appropriate for most of the population, which is why I started working in public health because I was trying to find interventions that worked more at a community level or at a national level. Um, and then after a while, I realized that there's a lot of benefit to working with people at a individual level as well. So I've really been trying to bridge both of those and to try to translate a lot of what has come out of the strength and conditioning and sports exercise world, but actually to try to communicate in a way that's meaningful for people.
Okay, so within the course, generally you're working with me and Andrew. So every week we have a live call and we'll go into this how it works. But generally your sort of main point of contact is me and Andrew. And then you also have, which is something that we've been working with the alumni group on, is every call, because we've got so much interest in this course now. We don't want the calls to become this huge thing where you don't get to kind of get to know us. And so we have got a network of alumni and coaches who will be in the breakout rooms, which will be really nice because it'll mean that you kind of get to know people that have done the course before, and you get to know other people in your peer group as well. So they're kind of become your cheerleaders, which is I think will be really, really nice. And then Emily, who helps on all the admin as well, and you'll get to know her. Um, so this is something that we start with, and it's just, I think, worth knowing. It's a 10-week course, so we have loads of time. Um, and everyone is coming in at this at a completely different pace. Some people have an exercise background, some people don't. So, and we all absorb different information at different points. So there's sort of no expectation of where you should be at the end of 10 weeks. You've got access to the materials for as long as you need them, and we give a lot of information, but we're not expecting you to work through all of that information in the space of the course. You just kind of work through the bits that are meaningful for you, ask us questions while we're here. The one thing that we do really recommend is that you make the weekly live calls, and I think they really make or break the course because it just helps you feel that you're part of something. You get to meet people, and you kind of know where we are in the course. And this time round, we have them at different times, so we'll have one at 9:30 a.m. UK time and 8 p.m. UK time. So you can hopefully one of them will work for you. You always have access to the recordings, but I do think it's good to sort of come along to the live calls.
Yeah, and you did a good job of explaining it, but one of the things I really want to emphasize is that our goals for the course is that we find options and solutions that work for you, by working with you and figuring out, what your goals are, what's available to you, even if you have any specific fears or considerations, and making sure that by the end of the course, you have a plan that works for you that you can continue to make progress on.
Um, and this again, we talk about this a lot, but we really, I think all of us are so hard on ourselves, and ultimately the main message is here something is sort of better done than perfect. We're not really aiming for perfect. There will always be stuff going on, and we're trying to over the 10 weeks build consistency over the long run. If you've never done any strength training before, this is learning a new skill, and there will be different words and concepts that are new to you. So the first few weeks are, it does feel like you're learning a lot. It's like a whole new language. But we try to keep the language that is consistent across the fitness industry, because then it means that once you've done the 10 weeks, you could go and do any other strength course and you'd have it in your back pocket and it'd be fine. Um, but as this slide says, be kind to yourself. We're all learning together. Everyone's got different limitations. Everybody has some history of injury or pain, and the starting point that you start at will be completely different from somebody else. Um, and then we have a forum, and we just really encourage people to ask questions, because if you're thinking it, there will always be someone else thinking it. And just as of today, I was chatting to some of the people in the accountability groups from the last few courses, and they were saying we should set up an osteoporosis specific forum, which I think would be really nice, and that will be with the people who have done it before. So that's what we're going to do this time. I think it'd just be a nice space to sort of share resources and that kind of thing. Maybe to Andrew.
So I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the course and how we designed the course. And one of the nice things about living in 2026 is that the quality of information and evidence that we have on strength training and its benefits for bone density, mineral bone density, um, and strength are huge now. We have a huge body of evidence, and the quality of information and studies has gotten so much better, especially in the last 5 years or so, where we can really say with confidence, that most people are going to significantly, receive benefits from strength training, specifically in terms of bone mineral density and strength and all the other benefits that come along with it. And that could be balance and confidence and all these other things. And we have loads of just really well-designed studies now that really help us know what are some of the most efficient and effective ways to train in this regard. And when we designed this course, we wanted to make sure this course was really focused on specifically what the evidence says and what the science says. We have other courses and we do lots of in-person courses and other online courses, and they have different emphases in terms of focusing perhaps more on things like movement quality or playfulness, or other aspects of moving. But we really wanted to make sure when we designed this course that everything in the course reflected the best and most recent information that we have on increasing strength and bone mineral density. So the way we designed the program is, what we did is we tried to look at all the best information we could find, and we tried to look at the major evidence-based recommendations from the top respected organizations, medical groups, research groups. And what we tried to do is we tried to synthesize the key takeaways. So we looked at other national programs like Royal Osteoporosis Societies, their strong, steady, straight guidelines. Same thing in Canada. We looked at the Australian recommendations from Liftmore, and even more recent research and study that's come out since these guidelines were originally published a few years ago. So we have a really good sense of what it takes to make an effective program. Um, and we know that there are certain there are certain prerequisites for a program to really pass a certain level of effectiveness in terms of building bone mineral density. So we know that in order to really get the best effects from this is we need some form of high intensity progressive resistance, and that's going to help prevent or even reverse bone loss and improve bone mineral density. So we need to talk a little bit about what high intensity means, and we'll spend a lot of time in the course helping people ensure that they're working at the appropriate level of intensity for them. We know that these programs will be much more effective if they incorporate some form of impact movements and also grip training, and that's to help the bone mineral density at different sites. So, for example, at the forearm or at the ankle where the shin meets the ankle, there are certain parts of the body that are going to benefit more from impact, and certain parts of the body that are going to benefit more from more traditional strength training. We know that we need to choose exercises that focus especially on the femoral head, so the femoral neck. So that's your thigh, where your thigh meets your pelvis, and your lower back. What's the appropriate exercise selection to actually get the benefits that we want? Um, we know that programs that occur about 2 to 3 sessions a week, and somewhere around three sets of 6 repetitions per movement. I'll talk about this. Working intensity is around 80%. So there's a few numbers here, but don't worry. By the time we get into the program, it's designed in such a way so if you're not a numbers person, you can still participate. Um, we also include a warm-up, balance, and mobility routines, which will help with long-term mobility and also strengthen other parts of your body. Um, we also know from the research that yoga and Pilates are great. They're really good for balance, but they're not enough stimulus for bone mineral density. So even though Jill and I both participate in different mobility and body weight programs, unfortunately the evidence is out, and yoga and Pilates are not enough, though they are beneficial in other ways. We also know that walking is great, and I really love walking, but also walking alone is probably not enough. So when we talk about this program, one of the things we say is we don't want people to get distracted by the shiny apples. And that was one of our goals as well. Because when you design a program, it's so easy to look at all the other stuff that's on the internet. Like I was saying earlier, now in 2026, there's so much information out there. The problem isn't lack of information, it's how to make sense of it and how to filter it and how to turn it into something that's accurate and meaningful. So whenever we design a program, we always say the goal is to keep the goal the goal. And we always try to go back to what our why is for every program. In this program, we wanted something that was simple, realistic, something that would help build strength and be effective and would help build bone density as well. So that's really what we're focusing on. The problem is on the internet. When you get on the internet, you get on Instagram, there's always other topics. It's so easy to sort of fall into a social media hole where people are talking about your gut microbiome or forest bathing or high intensity interval training or how much creatine to take. And all these things, they could be important and valid, and I'm not poo-pooing them, but they're just outside of what the focus for this program is. For this program, like I said, we want to be simple, progressive program that helps increase bone mineral density and quality and is going to help you get stronger. And that is what this program is designed to do. Sometimes we talk about this idea of the movement pie. And the reason we say this is that while progressive strength training is really important, that's what the program is about. We always like to remind people that there's more to life than just progressive strength training as well. So we know that to improve and maintain bone density, you need a progressive resistance program. Working at a weight you can lift about 5 to 8 times. That's gonna be roughly around that 80%. We know that you want to get about 2 to 3 sessions per week with a lot of these key movements. So you're squatting, you're hinging, you're pushing, you're pulling. And we'll talk about all this. We know that you need to add some impact, so some jumping, skipping, things like that. But that's just one part of it. We also want to encourage people to continue what they already love doing. So if you're dancing, or if you're gardening, or if you participate in a walking club, all those things are really great and really important for all the other physical and social benefits that come out of it. We just want to give you a few extra tools, an extra wedge in that pie, just so you can get additional benefits from whatever it is that you're already doing. And a good strength training program should feed into what you already love. It should make gardening easier and it should make it easier for you to go out shopping and participate in the things you love because it just builds up all those capacities that you use in real life anyway. Um, so what does the program look like? Well, without getting into too many details, it's a program that includes all the major muscle groups. We focus on compound movements, which carry over for real life. So it's going to look a lot like picking things up, putting them down, moving them around. It's a program that includes progressive resistance training and progressive impact training. And when I say progressive, what I mean is built into the program, we know how we're going to move forward and we have ideas on how we can increase the challenge and increase the benefit over time. And that's not always necessarily more weight. There are other variables that we can progress to ensure that you feel like you're moving in the right direction. We know that there's a program that needs to include some grip training and carrying. Grip training is really, really important. Obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously, but grip is correlated with longevity. And there's a bunch of reasons why that's true. But also grip training is really important for increasing the bone mineral density around your forearms, which are so important for people who are susceptible to falling injuries. It's really important to ensure that you build your bone mineral density there. Um, this is a program that should also gradually improve your mobility, your stability, your sense of balance, and perhaps most importantly, your confidence, so that you can build up that confidence and have a sense of what you're capable of. It's a program that will continue to benefit you throughout your life. So this program is designed that you could do it for the rest of your life, and you could continue to gain benefits from it. But at the same time, as Jill said, with the tools we give you, hopefully we'll give you the tools and the confidence to evaluate other programs as well. So if you decide that you get really into progressive strength training and weightlifting and things like that, you could certainly follow other programs as well. But if you weren't interested in that, this is a program that would, continue to confer benefits. It's a program we want to keep it as simple as possible, but not simpler. So what we mean is we tried to find the simplest way of organizing a program that would still be effective without adding in too many extra complications. And it's a program that you can do from home with minimal additional equipment. We really wanted to design a program that wouldn't force you to get all kinds of gadgets and things like that, and something that you can make lots of progress on with household items and just a small investment in things like maybe a bag of sand or some resistance bands and things like that. So the program is a progressive strength program. Like I said, it's going to help you with bone mineral density, and that is a big part of the program. We're going to show you how to develop the habits and the schedules so you can stick with it. And we really want to also focus on that sense of confidence and building all those other fundamental skills where, as I said before, you will build up your competence, which can feed into your confidence, which will help you participate in all kinds of other activities and sort of create this positive flywheel effect. And then hopefully that should help you continue doing all the fun things that you love. Jill?
Yeah, so just where this program sits relative to our other online programs. So Strong for Life is very much focused on strength, impact, and mobility. And then we have Movements for Life, which is the life-based training and the kind of more playful side. They are sort of the two sides of the same coin. But Strong for Life is definitely more structured than Movements for Life and looks more, I guess, more like traditional strength training because that's the guidelines that we're following. But it is a very joyful group to come in because most of the people that are coming in don't have a background in it. So it for me, I get a huge amount of joy from this course. Um, okay, next slide, Andrew. If you wanted more information on what the science says and things, we have a much longer webinar that we can send you the link for, and you could watch a whole hour of it if you like. Next slide. Okay, so just quickly to give you an idea of the course materials and how we navigate it. We have an online community, which is our where we share all the course content, and then there's a forum within that, which is really nice. So you don't have to use Facebook or anything. We have the weekly live calls with me and Andrew, and that's where you'll meet your peers and alumni. And then we have these two guest expert sessions, which are really fun. Shelby does kind of playful movement that comes in towards the end once we've kind of established some strength training confidence. And then Becky is a physiotherapist specializing in um, women's strength training. So she's brilliant and really thoughtful. And then you have videos for all of the different movements. We spend a lot of time with you, so and we'll go into this, but generally, if there are movements that you want to work on that don't feel like a good fit, we'll work with you to find something. Then we have accountability workouts for those people that want them. Those run after the course as well. That's just if you're kind of a person a bit like me who needs the support of a group to do workouts. Not everybody needs it, and that's fine. You can turn up or not. Some people turn up and just do the mobility, which is really nice. And then for those that want it, we have personalized feedback, which is where you send us little videos of you doing the movements, and we we give you feedback on it, just to give you a bit of confidence that you're doing what you think you're doing. Some people really like it and find it really helpful. Other people don't need it. It's totally up to you. Okay, next one. Um, so yeah, our main emphasis of the whole 10 weeks is really to find movement options that work for you right now, regardless of your limitations. And there definitely will be movement options in every category. Really focusing on everybody moving at a different pace. Some people will be hot off the starting line and they find sort of processing information really easy and they can just kind of go off and do their thing. For most people, it is learning this new skill and it takes a bit of time. And that's kind of why we have the whole 10 weeks to kind of find your groove, basically.
Yeah, just on that, and yeah, in every group, you always have the people who have a little bit more experience or whatever, and they are very happy to move along. But one of the things that I really love about the course is sometimes at the beginning we'll get multiple messages from people who all say the same thing. It's like, oh, I feel like I'm behind everybody, or I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, and everyone else knows what they're doing. But then you realize that, in the course, you get, sometimes 50% of the group will send a very similar message, and it's that process of people learning that they're all in it together and they're all learning together and there are no stupid questions and there's a lot of people in the same boat, and I think that's really when the course starts to come together, is when people sort of learn to trust each other and lean on each other and learn from each other. And that's what I really love about the course, is that sort of collective sort of, I don't know if co-creation is the right word, but there's something really lovely about it when you see all the different participants start to help each other out.
So just a quick, we won't keep you on this call for very long, but just quickly give you an idea of how the course works. So the first few weeks are really about laying the foundations. We kind of start you finding movements that are working for you. it might be that on this course you're not really starting to really add any load until towards the end of the course. We really want to just focus that you find something that feels good and you can do it at home and you feel confident about it. And that's really the main thrust of the whole thing. And then we can start adding load. Um, Towards the middle of the course, that's where we start the programming. So week 4 is where we actually start the workouts. You have access to them. You can start them whenever you want, but most people start them in week 4. Um, by 7 and 8, people are starting to add in more movements. We have some guest sessions, and generally the mental load has gone down a bit. And then weeks 9 and 10 are really making sure that you've got what you need going forward. Like I said, we still have our alumni group, so actually everyone's still in touch with each other. And you can still rock up to the accountability workouts. I like them because I get to stay in touch with most people that come through. And then we do offer these quarterly alumni calls, which is quite a nice way to catch up with people and see how everyone's doing, and kind of help people if they've, if life's got in the way and they want to kind of restart. Um, we just very, not going into too much detail, but we basically the movement categories are separated into sort of lower body, which is where we start. Then you've got some upper body, pushing and pulling, and then you've got impact and carries. And within each category, we were going to list all the movements, but actually a lot of them are not linear because it depends on if you've got pain in your knees or pain in, there's many, many options within each category. So we just try and work with everybody to make sure that you can find one that feels manageable right now and you know what the next step looks like. And this we refer to a lot is kind of thinking about each movement as a journey. And there are so many routes that you can take. And our main aim of the whole course is just finding something that works now and making sure you know what progress looks like from that point. And that will be totally different to somebody else. There we go. That's a lovely movement journey to the slide. Thanks, Andrew.
Mhm.
Yeah, you've got some very direct routes and you've got more sort of circuitous routes. And everything that you're doing will depend on what experience you have, what preferences you have, previous injuries. Um, Maybe you have barriers around balance or mobility, confidence. I think a lot of us have barriers around confidence. If you have osteoporosis or an osteopenia diagnosis, if you've recently experienced a fracture, I mean, all of these feed into this bigger picture of what works for you right now and how we can kind of help you navigate that. Um, I think I've kind of said this, but ultimately finding something that feels appropriate and we'll start adding challenge over time. And this is what we're aiming for by the end of the course is that you're doing 2 to 3 sessions a week. They're roughly 40 minutes. I mean, you can get to a point where the accountability sessions, you can just come out and do the first bit and they're about 20 minutes. Um, Life gets in the way. So we always focus on this kind of better done than perfect. It is designed so you could just keep doing it forever and kind of come in at different angles at different points. Um, yeah, and by the end of it, you'll have a really good idea of what you're capable of now, but what the next steps are, so that after the live calls, you feel that you can kind of confidently keep going. And also, I'm around on the accountability workout, so you can always ask a question then. Um, Equipment, we really encourage you just to start with what you have and don't buy anything initially. When it gets to a point that you want to buy something, we're very happy to help you decide what that is. We don't have any affiliate codes or anything. We'll just tell you what we reckon and things that we've used over the past and what we think is a good fit. Bands are useful. We do recommend starting with a bunch of bands, and again, we will recommend which ones to buy. They're not very expensive, but don't feel that you need to buy anything initially. We're really just focusing on movement confidence initially. And these are just quickly going through some questions that came up this week. Um, So we have a lot of people that join who have either just had a diagnosis of osteoporosis or osteopenia. So this whole program was designed in line with the recommendations around major osteoporosis support groups. Um, you'll hear us say this a lot, but we talk about this idea of sort of graded exposure. So long-term progression is the goal. It's really about, I must have said this about 10 times, but about finding something right now that's possible. And then very slowly over time, we start to build up the level of challenge. But there's really great evidence, very robust evidence that strength training and impact training are beneficial for long-term bone health. And so we just follow the guidelines on this. And on the osteoporosis group, this is just a very nice suggestion from a few of our alumni today. Um, so we've just created it. It's a space for anyone navigating in diagnosis to kind of share what's been useful for them. Um, we know that a lot of people that have joined our course in the past have received a diagnosis and they've just been left to figure it out on their own, and that can just feel really overwhelming and lonely and confusing. And I think there's just real value in connecting with other people that have kind of gone through this journey, um, and have found starting the whole thing, having never done any strength training before and just had an osteoporosis diagnosis, um, finding the whole thing really frightening, to coming at the end of the 10 weeks, just kind of realizing what's possible and actually that your world doesn't stop with the diagnosis. So we have a group, and it'll be nice to see what happens. Um, Knee and hip replacements. Got a lot of knee and hip replacements on the course. Andrew, do you want to talk about knee and hip replacements?
Yeah, so we always get lots of questions, obviously, because everyone has a different history and perhaps different restrictions or different circumstances and things like that. So one of the things we did is we looked at what the recommendations were from various groups. So arthritis, osteoarthritis groups. We looked at various surgeon groups in terms of people who have had hip replacements or knee replacements, and then obviously we're looking at the osteoporosis as well. And what we were trying to find is what were the specific recommendations based on perhaps people's restrictions or constraints that are unique to them. And what it really always comes down to is every single major group still recommends working in progressive strength training because it is so beneficial for recovery and it is so beneficial for long-term health. And the recommendations are always very similar. It's always start off with an appropriate dose of volume, so how much work you do and intensity, how hard you're working, and always continue with this idea of graded exposure, which is slowly adding in a little bit more challenge over time. Um, Even when you talk to surgeon groups, they a lot of times the official statements are saying, well, you have to try to do something. So you need to get back to it, see how it feels, find what's a good match. And then once you find movements that are a good match for you, just continue to progress on them. So strength training is going to be absolutely beneficial. If you have had a hip or knee replacement, it does mean we'll give you different options for impact because some of what's true for impact for most people is something that you want to be extra cautious with if you have had a knee replacement, but we can work with you on that. Um, and it's the same thing with arthritis as well. So Arthritis UK, which used to be Versus Arthritis, but really all major arthritis groups recommend exercise and moderate progressive strength training because they all say the same thing. It's crucial for maintaining strength, balance, range of motion capabilities into later life. So they all recommend the same thing, which is the key is to find movements and doses that work for you. And that's one of the things that we can do in this program. I guess one of the things that we talk about is this idea of learning how to have a conversation with yourself and try to map things out and check in with your body. So ultimately, not all the science and not all the numbers, not all the weightlifting. The main focus of this course is to give you the tools and confidence so you can try out new movements and exercise and have a sense of orientation and what's appropriate. Um, Often there aren't going to be absolute answers, and much of this journey is discovering what's a good match for you. But by trying new things and giving them time, you'll learn what's a good match for your body and you'll see the benefits from this. And we'll be here to, provide a sense check and give you tips and give you ideas on how you can adjust things so they are a good match for you. There are some things that we can't know for certain, and it'd be irresponsible for us to claim otherwise. We're not going to make any absolute statements. Um, so for example, when I was talking about the knee joint replacements, there isn't really any data out there that has definitive long-term data on impact training with joint replacements. We have some early studies and some hints, but if we don't have the absolute answer of the data, we won't pretend that we are or that we do. But the good news is that all the information so far points in the same direction, which is graded exposure over time with some form of progression is going to be beneficial for people.
Um,
Um, Go ahead.
we get this question a lot. So 60% of the students have never done any kind of progressive strength training. So you'll be in good company of that if you fit into that category. Um, we just want to try new things and kind of give them time. So really the most of the course, if you're brand new to this, will be spent finding your feet on the movements and making before we really start adding load, it'll really just be making sure that you feel fully confident with what you're doing. And yeah, it's a nice place to start. What's the difference between high intensity workouts and progressive strength training? Both are good. They're just a different tool for a different job. I think that what can be confusing is when you talk about progressive strength training, you talk about working out at an intensity that is beneficial for your bones, which doesn't mean working out intensively, which is confusing. So the high impact workouts are the sort of HIIT workouts are more sort of huffy puffy, and strength workouts generally when you first start feel pretty weird because you do some movements about 8 times and then you have a rest for 2 to 3 minutes. But that is why the accountability ones work so well, or if you're doing it with a friend, because you do something sort of 6 to 8 times and then you chat for 2.5 minutes and then you do the thing again. And it is actually very nice in a social setting. Andrew can work out on his own and listen to a podcast. I like to listen to what people have been up to in their week during our accountability sessions. But yeah, the strength training is just a different tool for a different job, and it looks very different to workouts that you might do in a group sort of gym group or in a boot camp, because it's really hard to do in a group because everyone's working on their own different weight.
Yeah. Yeah, just to pair it what Jill said, yeah, the high intensity interval training, which is what most people associate with boot camp and up to a point CrossFit style training, while it is fun, often the goal is just to have people feel tired and, feel like they've worked really hard because they get their heart rate up. Whereas, as Jill said, with the strength training, the pace is very, very different. And it's something you don't often see because it doesn't look interesting on Instagram or on YouTube videos and things like that, because it is lifting something heavy 5, 6, 7 times and then having a 2 to 3 minute break. But that's also what makes it so nice on the accountability sessions is you do have time to chat. And it's funny because when people first start, one of the things they want to do is they want to lift, the weights, a few times and then have like a 10-second break and get back into it and get back into it. And part of it is learning how to lift weights that are the right amount of challenge. So you do need a 2 to 3 minute break. And I think that's one of the big benefits of doing this with people.
Um, yeah, the alumni are a very nice group, and you can read about them on the website. But we really enjoy running this course. It's really lovely to have the opportunity to spend 10 weeks with people and kind of get to know everybody and kind of see them take off. And then also because we get to stay in touch with everyone, if you want to stay in the forum afterwards, you can. It's always just very nice sort of hearing what people have been up to, and yeah, just sort of seeing where they are 6 months on, a year on. Yeah, it's a nice way to, it's a nice, if we really get a lot out of it and they seem to get a lot out of it.